The microphone screamed through the conference room like a wounded animal. 300 pairs of eyes turned toward the stage where Julian Vance stood. The microphone screamed, a wounded shriek that ripped through the conference room. 300 pairs of eyes fixed on the stage where Julian Vance stood, his suit shimmering under the lights. I knew what was coming. 20 years of corporate politics had taught me to recognize a public execution. Elena Sharp, Julian's voice boomed, thick with triumph. Your position at Ethelgard Systems has been terminated. The words hung in the air, toxic and final. I felt the weight of the room shift onto my shoulders. Shock, pity, confusion. My heels tapped a steady rhythm on the polished concrete as I rose, held straight by the same composure that had carried me through 2 decades of battles. Julian's smirk deepened, the heir to a throne he never built, delivering a sentence he hadn't earned. His fingers drummed against the podium, a gesture of pure, unearned confidence. Effective immediately, he added, savoring the phrase like a fine whiskey. Whispers started weaving through the rows. They all knew who I was. The architect. The one who arrived before dawn and left long after the janitors. The one whose algorithms were the bedrock of everything Ethelgard had become. But Julian didn't care about foundations. He cared about his name on the letterhead and the size of his bonus. I walked toward the heavy oak doors, my reflection flashing in the chrome and glass. The stylized A of the Ethelgard logo seemed to mock me. 20 years. That's how long I'd given this place. My mind drifted back to the beginning, before the steel and glass monolith, when Ethelgard was just 24 dreamers in a leaky warehouse that smelled of ambition. I could still feel the ache in my wrists from those endless coding sessions, building the framework they would all dazzle investors with. Line by line, creating order from chaos. They called me relentless. But relentlessness was the price of building something elegant. Something that could handle billions of data points without buckling. Something that was, in its soul, mine. The memory of my mother's voice pulled me forward. Not her real voice, but the ghost of it, strained from chemotherapy. I'd coded from her bedside, my laptop glowing in the dim hospital light, the beep of the heart monitor keeping time with my keystrokes. The medical bills piled up on my kitchen counter, a map of my own ruin. But Ethelgard needed me, and I needed Ethelgard. So I stayed. I built. Julian had come to me 4 months ago, all polished charm and insincere smiles. He wanted full access to the core architecture, the master keys to the kingdom I had built. Elena, be reasonable, he'd said, leaning against my doorframe. I need to understand how this all works if I'm going to lead. The protocols exist for a reason, I told him, not looking up. Some doors aren't meant to be opened. His smile soured for a second, a flicker of something cold. We'll see about that. And now we had. 30 seconds after I reached the doors, the first alert appeared on the massive data wall. A small crimson warning in a sea of green. The junior analyst monitoring the network saw it. His face went pale. More red alerts blossomed like digital poppies. Data pipelines, user authentication, transaction logs, all stuttering, failing, crashing. A temporary glitch, Julian announced, waving a dismissive hand. Reboot the system. The lead engineer's voice wavered. Sir, we should diagnose the issue first. These failures aren't random. I said reboot it. Julian's confidence hadn't cracked. Why would it? He'd never gotten his hands dirty. The screens went black. The room held its breath. Then they flared back to life, and 3 words glared from every single one. Root access revoked. The silence was profound. You could hear the rustle of Julian's silk tie. What does that mean? Julian's voice had lost its resonance. Now it was just a man trying to mask his fear. It means, the engineer said, his tone hollow. The system no longer recognizes any administrative authority. It's shut us out. Completely. The dam burst. 300 voices erupted. Phones vibrated like a swarm of insects. Our most critical data streams were seizing up, millions in assets frozen in digital quicksand. I watched it all from my place by the doors. A beautiful, terrible symphony of consequence. That's when we heard them. Heavy, deliberate footsteps. Arthur Vance didn't enter rooms. He occupied them. The doors swung open, and there he stood, silver hair impeccable, his eyes sweeping the room, taking in the panic, the wall of failures, his son standing impotent on the stage. What is the meaning of this? Arthur's voice could have silenced a storm. Julian straightened up. A system error. We're containing it. Containing it? Arthur strode to the monitors. Our stock is plummeting. The entire European exchange is offline because of our error. It's not my fault. The core design is flawed, Julian blurted out. Arthur's fist came down on a console with a crack. The core was flawless for 20 years, until today. Until you. He turned to me, and I saw something I'd never seen in 2 decades of shareholder meetings. Raw fear. Elena. My name sounded like a plea. Please. That word hung between us. Please. Arthur Vance had never said please to an employee in his life. The system requires its root administrator, I said, my voice calm. It was built that way for integrity. Then restore it, he said, his shoulders slumping. Whatever Julian did, we can renegotiate. I need you to bring us back online. Julian shoved past technicians. I can fix this. I have executive clearance. He pressed his palm to the biometric reader. It chimed in acceptance. For one glorious second, his smirk returned. He began typing, trying to force his way back in. The screens flickered, then updated with a new message. Authorization nullified. Root privileges rescinded. Lockdown protocol engaged. You've made it worse, the senior engineer hissed. He's triggered a full lockdown. The young analyst who'd first spotted the error spoke up, his voice clear. The copy is useless without the source. The phrase spread through the crowd like a current. The copy is useless without the source. Julian wasn't just failing. He was being repudiated by the very soul of the company. Arthur's phone rang. When he hung up, his voice was a ghost. We're losing $250,000 a minute. Julian collapsed into a chair, the prince dethroned by his own arrogance. Then, something remarkable happened. The young analyst began to clap, slow, deliberate. Then another joined, and another. Soon, it was thunderous. 300 people on their feet, their ovation directed at me. I stood there, feeling the weight of their acknowledgement. You could have had it all, I said, my voice carrying clearly. But you couldn't stand that the most vital part was invisible, that something you couldn't see, couldn't own, was holding your entire world together. That's the flaw of an inherited crown. You never learn that real power isn't in sitting on the throne. It's in knowing how to build it. I turned back toward the doors. Arthur made one last desperate attempt. Name your price, a seat on the board. I kept walking. What they didn't know was what I discovered during those long nights at my mother's bedside. Poring over the company's ancient incorporation documents, I'd found a clause everyone had overlooked. The original intellectual property agreements, signed in that dusty warehouse. The core architecture, the fundamental code, belonged to its creator. To me. Julian, by firing me, had done me an immense favor. He'd severed the one tie that could have complicated my claim, my status as an employee. The oak doors closed behind me with a solid thud. The evening air met my face, cool and sharp. The system hadn't malfunctioned. It had simply realized its creator was leaving and decided to follow. My phone was already buzzing. Recruiters, offers, venture capitalists. But first, I had a hospice to visit, a mother to tell that the worry was over. That sometimes the greatest justice isn't about burning a kingdom down. It's about reclaiming the land it was built upon. The city sprawled before me, infinite and full of promise. Behind me, Ethelgard Tower stood silent, its screens still broadcasting their stark message. Route access revoked. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But sometimes, the most potent revenge isn't served at all. Sometimes, it's simply turning your back and taking with you the only thing that ever truly mattered. The system recognized its maker. After 20 years, it was time I recognized myself. My phone buzzed again. Arthur Vance. I let it ring. The sound faded into the city chorus. The copy was useless without the source. The employees had grasped it. Julian had been broken by it. Arthur was being destroyed by it. And I was free. Free to build. Free to create. Free to vanish into the night, with the quiet knowledge that the most indispensable things are often the ones you never see. The industry would wake to headlines about Ethelgard's meltdown, but tonight was mine. Tonight was for remembering every algorithm, every missed birthday, every sacrifice. Not with regret, but with the profound satisfaction of knowing it had all led here, to the moment the invisible became absolute, to the moment the system chose its creator over its owners, to the moment I didn't scream defiance, but simply walked away, leaving the gilded cage to lock itself. Behind me, an empire crumbled into digital dust. Ahead of me, a universe of possibility waited. The source, she was finally, completely, free. Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this. See you next time.